I think there's so many positives out there about like integrating the diabetes technology into our everyday lives. One of like the main ones is definitely just like the ease of use, as well as like lowering the burden of like your day-to-day diabetes care.
Technology is helpful for me. I can't really say that it's helpful for every single person. It really just depends upon like what works for that individual.
Some patients may decide to be on the Bluetooth insulin pen, or they want to have the whole kit and caboodle and be on the CGM, on an insulin pump, and have that be a closed loop system where they talk to each other. The American Diabetes Association recently has put out this kind of guideline that all patients with diabetes should have access to a continuous glucose monitor. This is considered standard of care. So this means that insurance companies have to cover it. Actually, most of my patients who are not quite ready, this is kind of the first, dipping your toe into the pool, trying a little bit of diabetes technology. And I think it's a great start. A really helpful measure that the continuous glucose monitor can give you is something called the time in range, TIR. This is the percentage of your blood sugar being in a target range.
Time in range is really a tool to let you know how your blood sugar is interacting, and if it's hitting your range. Let's say your range is 70 to 120, of where you're at a healthy blood sugar to live your best life. Your time in range is giving you the analytics behind it. So if you're constantly below your range or above your range, or at certain time of days you're never in range, you now have the data to go and drill down and make habit and lifestyle changes around that.
I think they just make my life just so much easier because I can look down at my phone or like say my pump and like, oh, I'm going low right now. Let me eat something. Or like, oh, I'm going high.
And when I was first diagnosed, I had 4 shots a day, bare minimum, and over 10 to 12 finger sticks. And now I change my CGM once every 10 days and my pump once every 3. And so it definitely eliminates the need for continuous needle sticks.
You have to sort of think about the usability of all of these things. What's going to be the easiest for you? For me, slapping on a pump and a sensor and not worrying about it for several days ends up being the much more agreeable option. But everybody has to pick for themselves.
When it comes to adopting diabetes tech, I use so many different apps. I learned about a lot of them, honestly, from the App Store recommendations, or from my nutritionist, or from even my endocrinologist. And I think the biggest impact from where I find about new apps is on social media.
The most useful apps that I use to manage my diabetes are carb counting apps. Specifically, there's one called Figwe, which there's an app for iPhone, but there's also like a web browser version for Android. And it shows you pictures of foods that you search and tells you how many carbs there are. There's also Calorie King, there's MyFitnessPal. Finding an app that works best for your lifestyle could be so helpful for carb counting, which is something that a lot of people struggle with.
When I have to worry less about my diabetes, I can focus more on the things I enjoy that remove the stress. If I ever choose to like take a break and like go back to like shots for a little bit, the vacations not only can help like give you a little bit of a break, kind of reset you, put you back into a place that you can restart and kind of put you in a better headspace, but it also might be able to show you like what is better for you.
I'm a big fan of technology vacations. I take pump breaks more than anybody, and I really decide how I'm going to manage my diabetes based on what I have going on. And when it comes to alert fatigue or tech fatigue, there are ways to pause it. On my phone, I have the ability to say, hey, I only want this much screen time on this. So I'm not obsessing over my data.
And we're really lucky that a lot of the technology now is very customizable.
Someone would want to sort of know, what questions should I be asking my provider? What questions should I be thinking about myself? How do I choose a system, and how am I going to get the best benefit from it? It is very important, perhaps even from the beginning, that one gets in touch with the insurance company and sort of prices out what are these things going to cost me? And it's not just that initial, what is the pump going to cost me? What are the infusion sets and reservoirs or cartridges going to cost me? How much interaction do I want with the system?
Are you interested in having a closed loop system? Because this actually dictates what type of continuous glucose monitor you can be on, because not all of the CGMs are closed loop or communicate with an insulin pump. Do you want to be tubeless, or do you not mind having a little bit of a tube to wear day to day? There's only one device that is a pod where you're not tethered at all, but it still can communicate with the CGM. If they're going with the tubeless, there's only one option, so they'll go with the Omnipod. The system that has the tube, so there's two options right now, Medtronic and then our Tandem T-Slim. I usually highly recommend that patients go enroll in an insulin pump class where you can get hands-on experience with the pumps.
While there are a lot of choices, if you bucket it into certain categories, you actually end up with fewer choices than you might think.
This is your body. You're living in it day to day to day. And so we want to make sure that we're best supporting you in whatever way possible so that the diabetes technology is working the best for your lifestyle.